All right. Nilto, good to be back with you here, man. How you doing?
Back. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. Man, I'm excited. I'm always excited with our guests.
It's always one better than the other.
It's always a real treat, let's be honest, right? Yeah. But today, we got this guy, which I haven't met anybody quite like him, especially what he does. I've never met anyone who does it. And it is a scarce position that this company that he works for right now had to go all the way to Brazil to hire him to come in here and manage this company.
That's impressive.
He is the Senior Director, Facilities Manager at Danaher. He is an industrial engineer. His name is Filippe Ruas. Filippe, welcome. Welcome to The Greatest Choice.
Thanks, my friends. Very glad to be here today talking about Kaizen, talk about my career path, maybe helping out the audience to learn a little bit about business management and help to contribute and have a nice conversation with you guys today.
Beautiful.
For sure.
Happy to have you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And Filippe, dude, so how long have you been here for?
So in America, I think 5 years. My 15-year anniversary this year. Before I came to Mass. I came to Mass in 2021, but my the first state that I lived in the U.S. was in Pennsylvania. Also in a different business, but similar kind of roles, right? That I am right now. So it's been 5 years. Nice journey in America, right? Especially coming from Brazil, right? So completely different culture,
right?
But now I feel almost like American. Although I don't have the citizenship yet, but I'm getting there.
You get there for sure.
Getting
Absolutely.
there. Right?
Did you speak any English prior, or is all your English learned since you arrived?
So that's an interesting question, right? So actually, I learned English not by going to classes in Brazil, right? So in Brazil, I usually did my high school, and I started to learn English actually in the end of the high school. So I was about like 17 years old, and I was not very good at it, as you guys can imagine. So what helped me to achieve the level of English that I have right now was combination of items, right? So in 2008, I was in the first semester of my college degree. I froze that and I moved to America and I lived here for 9 months. So I did a kind of an exchange program. Mm-hmm. Was a work and travel. I had very kind of a basic skills in English. And the intent of that was for me to kind of improve the English. And also have my first professional experience. And I'll tell you that not only helped me to kind of improve my English, but to form me who I am today. Because it was a lot of struggle, as you guys can imagine. I did not speak English and I came to work, not to study. Right. There's a lot of people that come to do the same thing, but they just go to classes.
Right.
So they have their parents kind of coming, supporting, sponsoring. They do not need to worry about money. They just come and to learn English. So I had actually two different experiences. I had to learn English and I had to live by myself for the first time, away from my parents, away from all the comfort that I used to have in Brazil. But I'll tell you, that was very cool because that helped me to form who I am today.
Right.
I helped to achieve all the things that I achieved so far.
And what were you doing? What were you working with?
So man, interesting fact, when I moved to America, I had first jobs were like crazy jobs. Like it started like a nightclub bodyguard and all kinds of stuff.
Well, it's kind of fitting.
Well, I know, big guy like me, right? But kind of a hustle, right? So I do like different jobs. So I was speaking like all kinds of jobs that were available back then. So I could kind of make some extra money. In the same time, have the interaction with Americans so I could speak English and start to improve my grammar and my speaking skills, so to say.
And that was in Pennsylvania?
Now, this was actually in Maryland. So that's the first state that we can say that I lived in America was 2008 to 2009, where I lived in Maryland for 4 months, kind of saved my first kind of savings in terms of money, as that was the first time I was working. And then I moved to New York City. So that was one of my first dreams. And then I saved for 4 months, but then I spent a month and a half, and it blew up. But I lived in Manhattan and got to know New York City very well, which is one of my favorite places in America still. Right? We can talk about Chicago in a minute, right?
Yeah.
But it's still one of my favorite cities in America.
You were what, 17 years old?
Yeah, I was about 18 to 19 years old.
That's a great experience, man. Living in Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
Coming from Brazil at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
How was that like?
I mean, it was great experience. Although I didn't have money, right? But I tried to leave the most out of it, right? So what I did is I tried to explore the city as much as I could, to gain more perspective in culture and understand the history of the city, where the great places were. Although I didn't have money to go in the fancy restaurants, I went there, I visualized myself saying, okay, not now, but 10 years down the road, I want to be here, but in a different perspective, in a perspective that I can go anywhere I want, that I can do whatever I want. And that helped shape the vision in a way. It's funny, but it's true, where I am today. So I said, okay, I'm going to come back here, but not in the position that I am right now.
And it took a lot of maturity too, because most people that come to America in a similar situation, what do? They stay illegally here because they make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And nothing against illegal immigrants. Like I am the benefit of one of them. Like, so I'm not, I am collecting the fruits of my mom coming here illegally. Eventually she got her documents and stuff. So I'm not here judging. I'm just saying that a lot of kids will come in here, make a little bit of money, and be fooled by that money, thinking that it's a lot, and they will give up education. They're not going to go back to Brazil. So you had to go back and finish college.
Correct. I mean, I think, to your point, I think there is always different perspectives on how you will assess life, right? On my case, I was fortunate enough to have a family that could afford to really kind of sponsor me to come to America. And I knew that if I could go back and study over there, I would have a shot to come back to America and perhaps with a sponsor, with like a big job and whatnot. But we all know that's very uncommon. Actually, the majority of people come here to hustle, come here, and they succeed. And that's the beauty of America. That's, for me, one of the reasons why I also decided, like maybe 10, 15 years ago when I was living here for the first time, right? I saw the country, I saw the culture, I saw the mixed blend, and I saw, okay, this is a country where no matter what's your background, if you have the drive, you have the grit, you can succeed, right? So, and that's something that we don't see in Brazil, unfortunately. In Brazil, for you to succeed in Brazil, you need to come from a very privileged background. Either your parents have money, or you are fortunate to study in a nice high school, college. You get a good group, social networking from early ages, and then from there you can succeed. You start to do business, or you get connections, and then you go. But there's a very few people in Brazil that comes from nowhere with just the drive and grit and can succeed.
Right. It's very selective.
Question,
right?
So piece of your life that you just talked about when you were 17, 18,
yes,
you came here.
Yes.
Was that drive all you, or did you have parents who kind of pushed you and motivated you to do this sort of stuff? Or were you the first one who were like, no, I'm going to go do this? Or did you have a system in Brazil that were supporting you to do that?
There is great question, right? So maybe let me step back and reflect on what you just asked, like and regarding my introduction, right? So I don't have brothers and sisters, so I'm an only child, which to me, people look at me, oh, you're spoiled, right? You don't have siblings and whatnot. However, I came similar than Victor. I came from a family that my dad and my mom, they didn't have much money on their early kind of 30s, right? So when I was born, they were like middle class in Brazil, and they had to hustle a lot to get like to where they are right now. In fact, they were able to make money, but once they were able to succeed, I was already almost like an adulthood already. I was like 20s. So during my high school, even early days in college, I always had to kind of learn to live with what I got. Although my parents did the best and they provide me the best education, they gave me all the foundation to succeed, right? So I just want to point it out because, to your point, influencing me to go to come to America for the first time was a couple of things. I think seeing my dad always pushing me to say, hey, for you to succeed, you need to kind of have something that differentiates you from everybody else. So if you don't do that, and back then was not as different anymore. A lot of people were doing exchange programs, especially because I think the Brazilian government had a special program they call Ciências Sem Fronteiras, right? Where the government was sponsoring all the college students to go study abroad. So there was a lot of opportunity when I did my exchange program. But the reason I did is because I follow my father's guidance. And also I have a cousin that he's about like 5 years older than me. And as I didn't have brothers and sisters, right, he was the closest to me, like role model, right? So he lived in Germany. He's also industrial engineering. He was very successful, right? So, and he was 5 years ahead of me. So I said, okay, if I look for a role model, I think every one of us should have a role model in your life, mentor and whatnot. Back then was him. I said, okay, he did the exchange program. So I said, okay, he's doing very well and he's 5 years ahead of me. I should do that as well. I think that's a clear indication that if I do an exchange program, that's going to play a part on my future. So that's kind of shaped a little bit the decision of coming. Although, to be honest with you, when I arrived, I was freaking out because what I signed up for, right? I didn't speak in English.
Yeah.
I moved away from a very comfortable life where I had everything. My parents provided everything. And so it was the first time I had to work. I had to take care of myself, do laundry, all the household activities, responsibilities, Yeah. But in the same time, having that experience so early in my life helped me to understand that it's actually great when you have the ability to do decisions by yourself and to have your money, right? So you don't rely on someone else give you something and you have like free will indeed. Because I think it's a joke to say, oh, you have a free will. Yeah, I mean, if you have free will, but if you live with your parents until you are like in your 30s, actually you don't. Because when shit hits the fan or you have that argument with your parents, they're going to say, even if you have the right argument, they're going to say, no, I pay the bills. You need to respect what I'm saying, even if they are wrong.
Well,
right?
That's what the government tells you too.
Yeah, true.
That's what
Right?
So free, land of the free if you have money. If you don't have money, you're not really free.
Yeah.
So then you went back, finished college.
Yes.
How was it? So you worked already as an industrial engineer before you got called out to work here, right?
So one of the things that I think helped me a lot, and I always tell this to younger talents, even in the company that I work or that I give mentorship, is that I went back, right? And to your point, a lot of people would have stayed because they saw money and said, yeah, money was good. But I saw sometimes in life you cannot think and a lot of people do that. They just look at life in 2-year time frame. For you to be a successful person, you need to look at 10 years ahead of you. So who you want to be 10 years ahead of you. Right. If you don't have that mindset, that thinking, you're always going to struggle. You're going to live life, okay, you're going to do improvements, but you're not going to do improvements in a way to achieve a larger goal, right? So it's tough to have 10-year vision. Where you want to be in 10 years? So people look at me, are you crazy? 10 years, I don't know if I'm going to be alive. Right. That's true, but if you don't have that vision, how are you going to shape yourself next day, next week, next month, next year without a larger goal, right? And that's exactly what I tell the younger talents. Like, how you become a senior director in a $20 billion company with only 33 years old. In average, if I look at all my peers, my colleagues that did kind of college with me, they either drop off or they are in a very different tier level on professional career, or they are very successful entrepreneurs. But the people that stayed working for big companies, there's a large gap right now when I compare myself. And not because what I do, I'm not grabbing or grasping about myself. It's just because I believe people don't have the 10-year vision. I told myself I want to become a plant manager 10 years ago. I'm very close to become a plant manager, hopefully in the couple of years to come. I feel that I'm getting ready. After all the luggage, all the experiences that I have built, especially in the last 5 years in America, right? But I drafted that vision when I came back to Brazil. I said, okay, I was kind of coming back from an exchange program, first year in industrial engineering college. I said, okay, what do I want to be in 10 years down the road, right? I had this cousin that was a role model. He was also in a big industry. Actually, he did a pivotal move on his career. And that's when I say, okay, maybe he was a role model for me, but not maybe anymore. And it's okay. Your role model should change. You should not be always the same person, right? For you to continue grow, you need to look for someone to model and say, okay, who is that person that I want to be, right? Who I want to be in 10 years of the road. And when I went back to Brazil, I said, okay, I'm going to finish college, but I had two things in my mind. 10 years down the road, I want to live abroad. I want to be a very senior level position in a big company. So what do I need to do to get there, right? So those were the questions on my mind. Oh, the third thing, I don't want to kind of rely on my dad or my mom anymore. That was very clear to me when I moved back. So what happened there, it was interesting. So I went back to college, but the first thing that I did, and I was judged by a lot of people, including my parents, is I started to work in a gym. So, and I was very kind of not criticized by that, but all my friends in college, they had similar background, families that had some money. they will look at me like, what the heck you're doing, right? So why you are not just studying engineering? Why you are looking to work and study? And on my mind, that was the third point that I just made. That I didn't want to rely on anyone else but me to have my money to decide what I wanted to do, what I want to spend, and don't ask for permission anymore, right? So that helped me there. So the first thing that I did is I found a job. As soon as I got back from the exchange program, I moved my college. I was studying in the morning still. So my first experience, actually, I didn't change the schedule, but I was studying in the morning and working at night at the gym, which was one of the most fun jobs ever because I got to talk to people. I was back there. I was single, so you know how it goes, talking to the ladies and whatnot. So it was a very good experience and helped me. And that's another thing. There is no judgment on jobs. That job taught me a lot. Taught me how to connect with people because I was the front desk person at the gym from 6 p.m. to midnight. And closing the store or the gym itself was my responsibility. Simple job, right? And you'll think, oh, maybe we in America would say, oh, it's not a job that has high expectations or high skill set need, but taught me a lot. Taught me critical stuff like how to talk to people, different backgrounds. How many people come to a gym every day? Different backgrounds, different genders, you know. You talk about life, if they want to talk to someone, they stop and talk to you about their lives. So you start to kind of connect with people. So that taught me that. Taught me how to handle money, responsibility, right? I was the one receiving the payments. In Brazil, that was very common to receive cash payments. Mm-hmm. So I had to control the cash. And having the ability to control large amounts of cash every day and being the person responsible to bring the cash towards what we call the mail room every night taught me, okay, I can handle large amount of cash and that's fine, you know? So little things like that was my first profession. And I was being very criticized by everyone else, but I didn't give a shit, to be honest. I didn't really care because I knew that was just a startup. So I could kind of start to make my own money, right? Until I could find a real fellowship or job in the career path that I wanted to go, right? So I did that for like 6 months. And then I found my first fellowship and I was so proud of myself because no one helped me. So I found the fellowship opportunity in the website. I applied and I got it in my first year of college. That's how I started, like in the cooperative.
Already in the field.
Yeah, it was a position in maintenance, actually a maintenance fellowship, and it was one of the biggest suppliers for the automotive industry in my hometown. So they provide to Fiat, Volkswagen, you know, the large automotive manufacturing plants on the region. So there was a big kind of manufacturing plant, about, you know, maybe 1,500 employees. So large business, like maybe they made $200 million a year in terms of revenue. Not as profitable because automotive is very low margin, but I learned a bunch. Start to learn really how a big corporation works. Which process exists in a business like that.
I honestly
right?
think that it's so valuable for you to have that sort of experience working for a big corporate job. Like I worked 10 years for corporate, and I see the difference between the employees that I have and the partners that I have that always worked for themselves or just straight off of college started working sales. The lack of professionalism sometimes. The lack of responsibility and time management, because when you have a 9 to 5, you have a 9 to 5, right? But we all know that a 9 to 5 doesn't start at 9.
Yeah,
it starts earlier than that.
Oh
right?
Yeah,
it starts earlier. And if you're 2 minutes, 3 minutes late, you got somebody on your ass telling you what to do, or giving you a warning, or giving you this. So it taught me a lot of responsibility, but it also taught me how the hierarchy of the company works.
Yeah,
it taught me a lot about politics. Like, what do you need to do? It's not just about being the best. Mm-hmm. Like, you quickly find that out when you work in corporate, that is not just the best. Being the best gets you so far, but it gets to a point that it's all politics.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not kissing ass, if you're not really being political, you're not going to get that job. And that's why people get frustrated a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, one thing that I learned in my career path, it's as you grow step by step in the ladder, if you pick imagine that you have a distribution of 100%, right? In the early stages of your career, for you to grow, the percentage moves further where you have a skill set or a hard skill set, and less about what we usually call soft skills or networking or political. You name differently, right? But as you progress in your career, it's less about how good you are on the hard skill set. It transforms more on how good you are on connecting with people, being political, know how to manage people. So that's the natural progression. That's why when you see a CEO level type, of course, the person needs to have the technical background, right? Of course. But sometimes it's not their best. The best ability of a CEO is really talking with intent. So when the person speaks, you feel part of what they are saying. Right? They have the ability to convince you so quickly on what they are saying. And that's kind of a illustration of what Vitor was saying, right? For you to become successful in life. And that's what I learned so far in my career path. No matter what field, you need to focus your attention on what usually the industry calls soft skills. Actually, they are not soft. They are very tough to learn, because
they're harder than the technical.
Oh yeah, way harder than the way harder.
When you combine both technical skills and the soft skills, you have a monster. So if you think about it in the industry, you look at Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos. Those are the three biggest CEOs that I can think of here in America. And to me, the reason why they are so far ahead of everybody else is because they have both. Mm-hmm. They have the soft skills, but they're also great on technical as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which I want to bring you up to that point, get to the technical stuff, right? So you got your internship. How long did you stay there for?
So I stayed in that first fellowship, and believe me or not, the position that I have right now, almost 14 years after the first experience, that first experience helped me right now. Wow. So that's how crazy it is, because maintenance is very technical, right? So it's the engineering field that is very technical. You treat machines, you treat breakdown. And back then I was like, okay, what I'm learning here? And I start to learn, okay, if the machine breaks, what does that mean for business? When machine breaks, we lose efficiency, we lose output, we lose revenue, we hit the margins, employees get frustrated, you lose employees. So I learned that first piece over there. Then I moved to the next fellowship, which is the company that I worked my whole career until I moved to Massachusetts, which was GE, General Electric, big American company. It was a juggernaut back then. Still is. Of course, after the crisis, there was a lot that has happened on that company. But I moved to that company and I started in supply chain management, right? Then after grasping a little bit about the maintenance aspect of a big corporation, how a maintenance department worked, I moved to supply chain management. So I start to understand, okay, for us to manage a business, what does it take, right? From designing the product, from creating the prototype, from developing the suppliers, to get the materials, to start to ramp up production plan, which equipments we need to build, which materials we need to build, who we need to hire, how we're going to train, and how we're going to succeed to kind of really gain market share by launching a product with all those processes behind, right? So for 4 or 5 years, I stayed in the locomotive business for GE in Brazil, in my hometown, right? That's how I learned a lot about supply chain management. Supply chain today is critical for any given business.
Explain to us what is supply chain management.
So supply chain management is the department, or I would say the area of a business that you control all your processes related from after you design. Think about like when you design something, right? Not a service. Services also has supply chain, right? Because any process, no matter if it's retail or service, you're gonna need materials, right? Or some sort of expense materials, indirect expense materials. So supply chain management is the area that organizes all your kind of processes around, from developing the suppliers, getting the planning perspective, when we should buy the material, by how much, using systems. So we need to understand the computer systems we call ERP, where enterprise resource planning. There's big brands there, Oracle, SAP, right? Those systems also are the main core foundation for how you organize and manage those transactions.
So you're not really talking about a CRM. You're talking about
talking
about like the behind the scenes.
CRM is more like in the sales perspective, customer service perspective. Yeah. For the materials and supply chain management, ERP control is almost like the brain of the process, right? So imagine that you design a chair, okay? So imagine that, let's put in a hypothetical scenario so people can understand what I'm trying to say. Imagine that you have a business that produces chairs, okay? Furniture, right? We launch this chair, okay? For you to produce this chair, what's the materials that we need to buy, right? So you need to understand, okay, the different components to build the chair. And then from there, okay, once you understand that, we built the first chair. We bought one piece of each component. That's the startup of a process or startup of a product. Then you need to develop your supply chain. You need to go, who is going to supply those parts now? Are we going to buy from which region? By how much? What's the cost structure of your product? So you have your cost structure, you have like who is going to provide, the quality of the product itself comes into play. So it's very complex, right? And then from there, you mature that process using the brain, using the system. Once we have the design, what we call the design freeze, you have all the components already fixed. We know what we're going to buy to produce the good, from who you're going to buy, what's the lead time based on the contract agreements that we have put in place. You could pick all that information you're going to input on the ERP system. And then human beings like the planning team, usually the procurement team, we use that system to make sure you can scale that up. You can buy in the right time so you don't buy excess of materials. And we have almost like a planning behind or a code behind that generates and say, okay, if I project sales from that chair 10 months ahead, if I ramp up, the system will tell the planner how much they need to buy by when. So that's kind of one of the key processes.
Is that what they use on... So I worked, my first job here in America was in the supermarket.
Okay.
And I became a grocery manager. And we had something like that for inventory of groceries.
Inventory management, yeah.
And I never understood. It was like, how the hell? I didn't even scan this thing. How do they know that I need this? Like, so that's supply chain management, right?
So that's part of supply chain management. Inventory management is part of supply chain management. Supply chain is a big umbrella, right?
So it covers a bunch of things.
Exactly. So if you think about the different departments that usually fall under supply chain management, you start with, I would say, from the engineering planning. So that falls under the supply chain. Sourcing, because you need to develop your suppliers. Then you have materials planning, you have production planning, you have procurement, you have warehouse and logistics, right? So usually those 6 functions falls under what I call supply chain management, right? So back then I could see it all. So I could learn process by process in each subgroup of supply chain management. I was back then material planner, but for me to do my job, I had to kind of understand the whole process, right? So I could be good when I was doing. And after 3 years, I got promoted. I moved to production supervisor. Different business. I moved to medical devices. So I moved from locomotive assembly to medical devices. It was the first time I had interactions with a more controlled environment, so to say. But it was great. It was like a startup. GE had acquired a small company. So I was literally working in a startup. Back then, we didn't have the fancy name of a startup, but it was a startup, right? There was a small company that was bought by a big juggernaut company in the region. And we were I was responsible for the production area. So I had about 20 people. And I was back then 22 years old, so I was still very young. Mm-hmm. And I had to manage like 20 people underneath me. So that taught me a lot because I had to now learn not skills to do the job by myself. I had to lead. And when you have to lead teams, is a mixed bag. You have to have the hard skills because otherwise you don't earn their respect. But at the same time, you are not by yourself anymore. Your success will rely on or other people performing the tasks and delivering the results, right? So that was a great experience, right? So 2 years there. Then I got, again, another job, and I got into a leadership program. So that helped me a lot because the leadership program that I joined was very kind of hard to get into, right? And I was already old. Usually those programs were designed for people that were getting out of the college. But because I worked and studied the whole career, so that makes a big difference for me. So I was like maybe, I would say 5-6 years ahead of everybody else because I decided to not just do the college. I was hustling. I was doing college and full-time job. So which in Brazil, it's allowed. I think in America is less common. But that's also something that is important to highlight that for me, I learned to be an engineer not because I went to the college. I learned because I was working as well. I saw the theory, I saw the practical. I saw the theory, I saw the practical every single day. So I knew how to use what I was learning in the college
so when
into
kids,
my hands.
when kids come to you and ask, oh, how did you get 10 years ahead of everybody else, and how you're the youngest one in your firm to do what you do, well, I think there is a question, right? You combined both, like the theory with the practice, and dude, doing the job.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about this earlier, right? Doing the work.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna get you results, and it's gonna put you ahead of everyone else because you can't compare.
Yeah.
We were also having this discussion earlier about everyone nowadays. You should be implementing AI in some sort of capacity in your business.
Yeah.
But we talk almost from like a pedestrian standpoint. We're talking about like ChatGPT and these other things that people use in everyday lives. You operating with like Oracle, GE, these huge tech companies at an engineering position. I'm assuming that AI is like at a whole different level. So like today, from when you started, how has AI affected your operations and how you lead?
So I think it's a great question. Actually, we had a meeting last week about AI. AI is the future. Is already. I mean, it's not the future. It's now. Present. I mean, I think it's something that is not when, is now. Who is going to learn, and whoever adapt faster is going to win, right? So that's the discussion that we're having on the technology field. For our company, we are seeing already a huge deployment of AI expanding on software and how the AI can help to improve the efficiency of the systems that we manufacture in the plant that we built, right? So I think AI is the future, but I would not that I'm against AI. AI is a tool that you need to learn how to best utilize, right? For me, one thing that I learned in my whole career, and I talked to Victor before the podcast, I'm a huge fan of continuous improvement. Not because I'm industrial engineering, but I think my whole life, I learned in my early days in college about Kaizen. So Kaizen is a Japanese word, right? Translating to English means continuous improvement, okay? It was invented in Toyota. And if you look Toyota by itself, right? Toyota as a brand. And I'll come back to AI. I just want to make sure that I connect the dots here. For me, Toyota is still the foundation for any given industry, right? And you look into why. There's a lot of things there, but I think the Kaizen mindset comes old days. Think about Japan. Japan's a small country, right, in terms of land, and they almost dominated the world, right? True facts, right? Yeah, World War, they lost. Yes, they lost, right? But think about what happens after the war. They were completely destroyed, right? Think about that. Not only that, they also faced a lot of natural disasters. So if you go to that area of the ocean, you have tsunamis, you have hurricanes, you have earthquakes, you name it. All bad stuff naturally happens over there, right? And they have to develop the Kaizen mindset. For me, Kaizen mindset is not something that Toyota invented, but it's part of the core Japanese culture, right? And what Kaizen is being better every day. It's being better every day in what you do, in how you live. And that's for me also that I carry very close to my chest, not because I learned about Toyota, I learned what they call lean manufacturing, but because that's actually the essence of life. If you want to be successful in any given field, follow the Kaizen mindset. Be better every day. And simple as that. And AI is an example of that. That's why I was mentioning the Kaizen, because for me, AI is as good as if you can put something good over there, you're going to get a great outcome. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't have a good prompt, or you don't have an understanding on how to use the tool is there, it's available. Such as any other tools for business management.
It's like a hammer. If you don't know what to do with it, you can either build a chair or you can just hammer your fingers.
But the Kaizen is good because Kaizen is not something that you can just say, hey, it's a philosophy. It's not a tool. Okay, Kaizen can be understanding on the industry. You can use Kaizen nomenclature to do improvement on business, but means as well every day being better, right? So what are you doing today to be better tomorrow? What are your habits, your lifestyle? What you're thinking about? And that connects the dots as well with the 10-year vision, right? So you want to be a better person. Look 10 years ahead of you. Develop who you want to be. And then do Kaizen every day. Kaizen. Be better every day. It doesn't mean that you need to do large improvements, but you need to always think like that. If you always think like that, you're going to succeed. No matter what kind of profession you are, no matter what life circumstances you are, follow that method, and you're gonna be successful.
So you believe that AI on itself could be a problem if people are not trying to improve themselves and just relying themselves on AI? Is
Think
that what you're
about
saying?
that. I always, and because of I came with that background, right? So digital tools are great. They are the future, but they are as good as what you're putting inside the tool. If you put a shitty input on the tool, you're gonna get a shit outcome, right? So people that is gonna succeed with AI are the ones that understand what they are asking the tool to do and then getting the best outcome of the tool, right? Because the tool itself is a large model that will think much faster than a human being brain or one human being brain, right? But in the same time, if you don't have the right input, you're not going to have a good output. Right. And so what's the value proposition of the tool itself? So that was the discussion that we were having in the company about AI. Is the future, or is not in the future, is the present, yes. Right? But for any person that wants to use AI for like their profession, for their life, what my takeaway is, first think about, do you know what you want to achieve with that tool? So you understand what you want to drive. And if you don't have the improvement mindset, what are you using the AI for, right? So you need to use the tool for something that you are chasing or to achieve, to improve a process. Usually that's the case. And we are talking about that. Use AI to improve your business. Great. What does that mean? Right?
I just want to get back here just so we don't lose track. Because I still want to get to the point. You worked for that company right before you came here. Did you apply to work here? Were you invited? How did it work?
So great question. Everybody that I meet here, they are from a different country. Ask how did you come? How your visa work? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's uncommon, right? We were talking about this earlier. So when I was in the same company, it was an American company, right? And I had the goal. I said I wanna live in America, but with a real job and like in a better position. This I explained before. So I got into grinding every day, moving positions in Brazil, living in different cities, until I finally got my shot. I had an interview for a position that after the leadership program to kind of come, not to live in America, but to kind of travel to America. And that was kind of my connection. Say, okay, if this is a position that I will need to travel around America's region, because it was a regional position, the odds of me moving to America increases a lot. Mm-hmm. So I decided that's the one that I'm going to apply for. And that's what I did. I got the job. I was not kind of invited to move to America. I was based in Brazil, but I was already traveling a lot to United States to support different manufacturing plants from that business. And to help continuous improvement, I was like acting like a lean leader, almost like a consultant, giving like coaching and mentoring to different professionals in different manufacturing plants on how to kind of create their strategy plans, how they can improve their business on the business imperative metrics, right? And that's how kind of I stayed like for almost 4 years in that field. That gave me a lot of luggage or experience on strategy, business management, how to really read a P&L, what are the critical items to look for, problem solving, which is a critical foundation for any business position that you aim to go for, right? And then I after like that position, I received the job offer. Do you want to move to America? So, and then was when I said, okay, I achieved one of the milestones that I am 10 years back. I said, okay, now I'm going to America, sponsored by a company, legal. That's what I am for. And to be honest, I learned a lot because I didn't negotiate my salary because I didn't care about the salary. I got a shot. Like, I will move to America. Back what I learned is maybe I should have negotiated the salary a little bit more. But those are the things that you learn,
That's the trick, though. Like, because every single promotion I got when I worked for the bank, I was so happy just to get it because I was so young and I was just hyped up, right? Nobody's doing it. I would never negotiate my salary. Yeah. And I would always think that if I try to negotiate my salary, I might not get the job. So let me just take whatever. And then you would find out later that your peers are making 10 times more money than you are. And you're like, oh, I'm stupid. Yeah. But you see that it's no coincidence, man. You worked a lot to get to where you are. And I'm sure they didn't offer you the position because you're just available. Yeah. There was a whole history behind. And I really wanted to hear that so people can get inspired. They might be listening to us from Brazil. They might be listening to us from here. Like, there are options. There's so many people with, unique skills that if they wanted to come in here, there is a path to come here legally. You just have to work. And listen, you talked about a lot of things, but I want to hear the average person that listens to us. There are entrepreneurs, starting level entrepreneurs, trying to make their business grow. And you're talking about high level, how these big companies operate. And I believe that we can learn from these big companies into our small businesses as well. When you, let's say you did consulting for a bit for firms, right? So let's say you got to, Nilton has a retaining wall business, right? Construction business. Hardscape. If you sat down with Nilton, what would be the first thing you would ask him? What is skills? What can you give us to take away, and what you can give our audience to take away? Something that they can apply right away into their business to help them improve and to see if they're actually growing or declining.
Cool. No, great question. So I think any given business, right? You have, in my opinion, two different types of industry. Nowadays, you have either retailers or service, right? Those are the two types of industries that you can have. In your case, I think you would fit maybe a mixed bag, because you sell materials, but you sell also the labor and the service itself.
Just the service.
Service, right? I think despite the difference between the business, when I come down to a business, the first thing that I want to understand is like, what are the problems that you guys have today? So that's the first question that I ask, and be simple, right? But then it triggers a lot of conversation and nuggets for me to understand the business a little bit more, right? So maybe you're going to respond to that. Oh, Filippe, I don't know. I think my customers don't like my product. So what does that mean? Can you explain me why? Do you have any type of survey there? How do you know if your customers enjoy your product or not? But always, any given business, doesn't matter if it's retailer or service. You start from the end point of your business. And your end point is your customer. So what problem you are solving for your customer? Are you making your customer happier or solving any problem to your customer? That's the first question that you need to ask yourself if you have a business. If you're not solving something for your customer, something's wrong already there and your business might fail, right? But once we understand, okay, understand the product, understand that product is bringing value to your customer somehow, then you understand, okay, what's the most efficient way that you can grow that business, right? And then you start to ask the questions. How big is your market, right? Do you know how big is your market? And the people are like, what do you mean? Like, this is a very corporate question. No, it's not. So think about, okay, what product do you make? In your case, Nilton, what's the product, the end product?
The service would be hardscaping solutions, so either retaining walls, patios, that sort of stuff.
Do you know what are the big numbers for your business? Big numbers is like, if you look at in your region, where is your business located right now? Framingham, right? Yeah. In average, do you know how many houses are being renovated or new constructions are being done in a year basis in Framingham?
Couldn't tell you.
So first thing that I would do is get that information. Go to the site. I believe if you can find that information online, because they need to disclaim, you need to understand, okay, how big is your market? You need to understand how much can you sell, right? That's one of the questions that any entrepreneur should be looking for. How big is the market that I'm playing, right? How big you want to go? Where you want to be 10 years, right? So yeah, I have this business. Yes, I'm making this money right now. Great. Do you know if you're going to survive? How do you know you're going to survive? So the first thing, understand your market. Understand the customer problem. Understand your market, right? Once you understand the market, who is my competition? How many competitors I have in the region? Are you the sole? You have a lot. So you need to understand the competitors. I
don't think you have a lot, man. I've never seen many construction companies here.
Oh, no. There's barely any.
And why you need to understand the competitors, right? Because they can eat your lunch, right? So you need to be close to them to understand what they are doing so you can be ahead of them, okay? But usually, if you have a good product and you have a good kind of solving your problem, you understand your market and you understand the competition, you understand how the market dynamics work. Because you're going to say, okay, how much of this market I'm losing, right? How can I gain that market? And that you start the strategy. That's every corner of strategy start. That's the sequence. Then you talk strategy. What's my strategy, okay? What do I need to do to design my strategy? How much revenue I want to make? How much profit I want to make? How I'm going to get there? So you have the numbers and you have who is fighting for those numbers. Right? And then you design your action plan. So you're going to say, okay, now that I understand those, what are you doing to innovate? Strategy about innovation, right? Yep. You're not going to gain market share just by, oh, I have a good product. No, that's too broad. You need to understand what you're doing differently, right? Your competition is like every day there trying to eat your lunch. So it's the same process, the same level of a corporation, but of course in different sizes. But all businesses are the same, guys. It's not a cliche, but what I'm explaining to you guys, any given business that I go in, if I give a consulting, is exactly the same path here. Of course, I'm talking the macro level so people can understand. There's a lot that goes into it, right? You need to understand numbers, crack numbers, understand a little bit, connecting the dots as well to make sure you understand and create a strong action plan. But that, responding to your question, those are the steps for any given person. Even if they are in a corporation working in 9 to 5 or into a business or creating a business by themselves, those are exactly the same steps that actually I follow myself if I'm helping someone or in my career path. So I move jobs, right? Oh, I got the senior director job. I know everything? No. I follow the same sequence that I'm talking to you guys. And then once you have action plan, Kaizen. Improve. How can I do better? How can I do better? Until you achieve your goal. You achieve your goal, and again, strategy deployment. They usually is long-term view. Define. I want to be how much you make a year. $100,000. Let's put hypothetical in revenue. What's your goal in 5 years? I want to grow that company 5x. I want in 5 years down the road make $500,000 of revenue. Hypothetically. Okay, you make 100 now. Okay. That's a gap of 400. Okay. So we're going to look at and design with your team and say, okay, no, understanding market, understanding your customer, understand like the competition. What can we do this year to grow from 100 to 200? Not 500 in 1 year. You have 500 in 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
I'm going to double. What do we need to do to grow the business? And then as a team, you guys are going to do Kaizen. What are the areas that you need to focus? Is your product enough? Do you have any innovation that you can do? Can you launch something additional to your service that's going to bring more revenue or that's going to eat the lunch of your competition, right? And those are the discussions that you got to have on a business perspective to kind of grow the business, right? Now, how do I bring this back for someone that is 9 to 5 and they're watching us? Same thing. Same exactly thing. You're going to do the same steps, but instead of looking internal business goal that you want, you're going to look at your department. You're going to look, okay, I have an area, I have these employees, I have this kind of a metrics that I receive from the corporate team. Okay, how can I get there?
And Newton, I know you have ballet today. So if you have to go, let me know, okay?
We got about 10 minutes. Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
We'll continue the conversation here. But Newton, I don't know if you know, but one of his side businesses is ballet. Like ballet? Just explain to the audience so they don't really...
So we have a little Father's Day recital with my daughter. And today is the first practice for ballet, so I gotta show up.
That's priority, man. Family.
Priorities, family.
We got about 10 minutes, though, because I'm really enjoying the conversation. Yeah. You are very knowledgeable, and I'm applying all those things tomorrow in my business. So.
And it's funny you said about 5X in the business, because Newton went to a convention. When was it? It was
December. I think. The 10X for
10X from Grant Cardone. So he is applying a lot of these things, and he immediately he has tell him a little bit about the structure of your business and what you had to do, because it goes very well along with what he's saying.
Yeah. So
because you were a little afraid at first because your dad was so stuck on his way. So
So I'm seeing it firsthand exactly that, because when I came back from Phoenix, there were a lot of things that it seemed like a lot of businesses, and I'm putting myself in this pot, that you leave it to chance. Like, oh yeah, we made $1 million in revenue. Next year we'll do 2, but why? How? Like, you got to implement things. And for a long time, it was a lot on his back and then on my back. So then when I came back, it was all about developing systems and implementing technology, process, building a team so you can delegate. So the 2 things that we did this year that we are already seeing improvements is adding salespeople, because it broadens our reach, because it was all on just me and my father. Having a 3rd sales guy opens up more opportunities. And actually having an admin in the office that can kind of manage calls coming in. So now we're reaching out to customers faster, setting up appointments. So we're actually developing a system which also gives us kind of that structure that customers appreciate. So right away, I'm already seeing the things that you're talking about, that we are implementing and being more intentional about the decisions we make, because now we actually have a revenue target in mind that I don't want to leave it to chance. Like this year, I would like to make $4 million in revenue. And to do that, I am applying this, this, and this. So
love it. And the other thing is, so the steps that I kind of outlined to you guys is normally
bring the mic closer. Yeah.
So the steps that I was kind of illustrating to you guys regarding strategy deployment, how you look at the business perspective in order for you to have a strategy, right? Having the strategies is the I would say the fun part, but the tactical part is very important as well, which is what you're saying,
it's the hardest
right?
one too.
It's the hardest, but one thing that I learned is, and we learned this in industrial engineering from early days, is if you don't measure, you don't control. And if you don't control, you do not know what you're doing, right? So it's very hard for you to come from strategy to execution.
yes,
That's where majority of people struggle. They might be good on brainstorming. They might be good on, I have a vision. I want to go somewhere. I understand the big whys. I understand the numbers. But how you're going to execute is very important. And that's where the Kaizen mindset comes into play, because you have this long-term goal. You have this long vision achievement, but how are you going to execute better every day in order to get there? And that's where what I call performance management, right? So when you have the strategy defined, you brainstorm your action plan, you know your year goals, how you are measuring your processes. And that's the question that you just said. First question, do we have processes? No, we need to create that. In Japanese, you call create the standard. Create a process, create a standard. If you don't have a standard, you cannot repeat, you cannot measure, you don't have consistency there.
Right.
So that's the first thing. We have a process. Great. If you have a process, measure performance every single day. So if you want to hit $200,000 of revenue and you are coming from a jump off point or a baseline of $100,000, you have 52 weeks, right? What's your target every week?
we
You
have
have a
40.
target.
But yeah.
So if you have a target, you need to have your big action plan, but you need to have your short-term action plan.
Yes.
And you have the processes that will help you to achieve those. But you need to have a target, and you need to measure every single day, are we meeting that target or not? If you're not,
making adjustments,
exactly. It's not perfect solution. People think that everything's going to be perfect.
I think
right?
Kaizen, in other words, is just try and error. Like
That too, yeah.
you
Which
gotta-
we also talked about, because you have to be able to look at the processes. And a lot of people get stuck on their ways, think that they know everything. But then when you bring a consultant in, for example, that kind of expose some of the flaws in your business,
Waste.
you have to be humble enough to be like, hey, yeah, we got to change things up.
Because when we're talking about in the personal perspective, like we talked about in the last episode, you need to always be looking for that opportunity to be better, but you have to have an identity. So when you translate that to, because if you don't have an identity, you easily influence and you change your opinions all the time, right? Which is fine to change your opinions. Like I changed, I say that to Newton all the time. Ninguém queima a língua quanto eu, velho. Eu sou o cara que mais queima a língua no mundo. But if you're not afraid...
I know.
Yeah.
The guy before had a Porsche. EV, bullshit. Now has a Tesla, right? So,
You see? Dude, so it happens all the time. Like and I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed of it, man. Because if you have a brain and you're smart, you're gonna realize that, hey, when I was 20 years old, I had a different mindset than I had now. Like, and every year I'm learning new stuff. And then I realized, I was like, oh crap, I was wrong. Like I looked back at some of our first episodes on the TGC, and I was like, "Damn, dude, you shouldn't be saying that. Like that's not cool." But you know, like you improve, you evolve. That's the process. That's Kaizen to me. And then in the business, it's the same thing. You try, you have a vision. That's really important. The vision and the purpose and where you want to get to.
Absolutely.
Because once you have that vision, you draw a plan. You never throw the plan in the trash, but you make adjustments to the plan.
perfect. And you guys nailed. I didn't have even to explain. By what you guys outlining is exactly that. And back to, I'm very passionate about Japanese.
Which outline? What's the name? What's the name of the outline?
No, he said what we just outlined.
Okay.
What you
talked
guys just outlined in terms of, you guys nailed. Like when you think about Kaizen mindset, right? I was explaining. Very passionate about Japanese culture. Kaizen is about trying and error. Perfect. Nailed. Kaizen is about learning and improving, right? It's not just improving. You're never going to improve if you don't learn.
Right.
And you're only going to learn if you fail. That's the bottom of it, you know? And what I learned, and I met a lot of Japanese senseis that were kind of raised in Japan, and they were born with that kind of a philosophy around them. And you can see what's the other aspect of the culture. they are humble.
Mm-hmm.
They show
I
respect.
think it always goes back to the Bible.
They show respect. They are humble.
It's crazy.
and they...
Felipe, let me cut you right
yeah.
here. Eu não sou Faustão, não, but it's like, I need to say this.
Yeah.
Right before we recorded another episode where we talked about what you just said, that God tests our faith through trials.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's when he tests our faith, and that's how. And if you think about it, that's how you educate your kid, right? You're both parents, right? You teach your kids through trials, right? And it's the same thing in business, but as a business owner myself, when we go through trials, sometimes we just freak out.
Yes.
Right? Because we expect everything to go smooth. Even though I read all the books and I see everybody like in the first 5-10 years of businesses, they're going up and down. Like nobody gets rich and poor like me. But it's a roller coaster in business, right? We hear that in the books, but when you actually live in it, if you don't have a strong identity, if you don't know your purpose, if you don't know that, hey, God, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
If you can overcome those problems, and I think it goes very along. I think the guy probably read the Bible, the one that came up with the Kaizen
and I think that's what he mentioned too, because when you talk about the theoretical side of it, like brainstorming and putting it on paper, it looks good, but when you're going to execute it, then you're actually living through it, and then you actually got to deal with the real world.
How do you really create a tactical plan? Like you said, like you have to execute the vision, right? You have to have a goal.
All right, guys, this is my cue.
Okay.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Hey,
It was a pleasure, man.
Nice meeting you, man.
You're gonna be.
Enjoy the ballet with the
We're gonna post a reel of you dancing later on.
All right. Prazer, velho. Até mais.
All right, and always, guys, we made sure we showed you this because the priority can never change. And Nilton is just taking the table with him. Can you please just like put this here on top? But it is, family is always going to be the priority. No matter what you do, family is a priority. But going back, you have a vision, you have a goal. Hey, I want to 10x my business. I want to 5x my business. Whatever it is, I'm starting from here. I want to get there. Then you create a tactical plan.
Correct.
What's the best approach? Like a 101 approach to this?
Well, I think first is understanding the processes that support your business, right? Like we were saying, right? So imagine you have your vision, you have your year goal already very well established. For you to translate that into an action plan, you need to understand if you have processes, right? And if you do have the processes, then you're going to seek data behind, right? Okay. That's the first step before you develop your action plan. What I mean by data behind is imagine, let's suppose that you have a service like Newton had, right? He's providing a service. So what are the processes that control the sales of that process? What are the sales processes? I prospect, I do marketing, or I go try to chase a new customer in order for us to recreate the same business but in a different field or in a different property, for instance. So I would ask questions about the process itself, right? Mm-hmm. Processes collect data. Why data is important?
What sort of data? Like what's relevant?
What's relevant for your goals? So imagine if you're looking for revenue growth, what are the metrics that we will look for revenue growth? Is how much prospects?
What are the indicators?
Yes. What are the key indicators that you might have to create
KPIs,
or you will have data already to create those KPIs so you can measure your process performance, right? So in case of sales, give you a few, right? For instance, you can think about maybe how much prospecting you guys are doing every day, because that's gonna lead into maybe new prospects, new clients, new sales, order intake, right? Another way that you can see how measuring the order intake itself, how many orders are we coding, how many orders are being closed every day, so we can see the evolution. So a good example would be exactly this for sales. You have one indicator that shows how many prospects you reach out today, cold calls or visits and whatnot, one indicator. Okay, second indicator, how much of those converted in sales, okay? And then another indicator is how big are those conversions, right? So this would tell you, for instance, are we focusing the right metrics?
If you're aiming towards that goal and you're actually progressing towards it, right? If you're actually on pace to
so you start to measure those and you say, maybe that's going to be pivotal strategy, right? You start measuring and then you realize after executing the first steps, yes, we are getting a lot of prospects, but we are not converting them. So something's wrong between prospecting and converting. So that's where you need to focus your tactical plan. Say, okay, what we need to learn, what we need to go there and try to understand why your prospecting is not converting. It's because our sales pitch is not strong enough. It's because our product is not appealing enough. So you would focus on that example, on that field. But that's why it's important for you to have data. If you don't have data, it's very hard for you to understand, okay, how can I change that process? How can I improve that process? That's where I was saying, for any given business, after you come from strategy deployment towards execution, you need to have some sort of performance measurement. And for you to have performance measurement, you need to have process in place. On this case, hypothetically, you have a process in place of prospecting, trying to sell, and measuring how much of the sales is translated in dollars, for instance, right? But that is applicable for any given process, right? The sales is one macro strategy item that you can look at. Imagine that you want to increase profitability. So maybe your focus is not, there's multiple ways that you can increase profitability.
Like you got to lower operating costs,
You can
make sure that your CAC,
yes,
client acquisition cost, is lower.
It's actually a good parallel because sometimes people think, we can improve profit, cut cost, right? Not just cut cost. Cut cost is the more traditional way to look at, but you can grow profit by increasing sales.
That's true.
Right? If you increase your top line, you're going to increase your bottom line, volume-wise, right? And actually, in fact, you can increase your cost as well, but you can increase the profit, you know?
Yeah, because if you increase the volume, it's something I'm going through with my business right now. We're increasing volume. So we're focusing on low-ticket items to just get some volume and help some of the brand new agents. But what I saw is I had to hire a back office because I couldn't handle the application. So now, we have more income, we have more revenue, but we do have more cost, which is the goal, right? It's a good problem to have, but people need to watch out for that. Now, every entrepreneur, man, when we start, we have two focus, sales and sales. And I always tell my team, everybody who's there, I was like, hey, man, you have two jobs. You're either working directly with sales or you're supporting the sale. Like that's it. Like we need to make money. Like we need to make sure the business is making money. Otherwise, that doesn't happen. And that's the reality for most entrepreneurs. Like for me, like I know how to calculate all these things, but I never stop to do it. Like I literally just hire someone to do that for me. I was like, she's a full-time employee. I was like, hey, I want to make sure that you are paying attention to the metrics so I can receive the report. But for a lot of people, they're not at that stage at work and they afford to hire someone just to do this sort of thing, so them to focus on the metrics. What should a starting entrepreneur, which the focus is surviving at first, right? There's stages to the business. You first survive, then you make your dreams happen, and then you start to enhance, improve, and grow and hire. And usually I would like people to have the other way around. You survive and then you start improving, but human nature is not really how it goes usually. How they can balance their time between sales and what's an easy way for them to track these metrics so they can kind of pay attention to what you're saying and adjust the tactics and the strategy.
I think it's important to understand the business that you are operating with, right? Knowing your business a little bit, like the finance field, it's a business that if you think about sales, yes, the core function is to sell, right? That's how you're going to kind of grow your business. If you have more people good at sales, that means that you're going to be able to generate more money, right? Mm-hmm. That's the natural thought. But actually your business is not really sales. Your business is people. Right? Because if your people, they don't have a buy-in to your vision and they don't follow your vision as a leader, you can be training them to be very good at sales, but your business is not going to stick, it's not going to grow. That's why strategy is important. No matter what field you do, the exercise that we got to do is the same. And don't be biased, okay, just because the core activity is sales. If you try to, and that's why where I always have a good discussion with my friends is, why strategy is important? Sometimes people say, strategy, fuck that. I'm going to go and I'm going to just grind and I'm going to sell, and grow the business on the heartbeat. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. But I believe if you don't have a strategy before you go into the execution, you're going to have a much harder path.
Oh yeah,
to grow,
I can tell you 100% that high performance will either get you a lot of results or just get you to fail faster.
Yeah,
because I'll tell you, like a little bit about like my ascension last year and how much like we generated so much revenue, we were selling a lot, but I didn't have a strong foundation, and then it nipped me in the butt at the lower end, right? So because I didn't have a strategy, I didn't have a plan. I was just like, I'm just gonna grind.
Yeah.
And grinding will get you to a certain point, but in order for you to grow to the next level, I think you need to strategize. But my question is really on how entrepreneurs balance that out, because it's so tough, because you got bills to pay at the end of the month. You've got 30 days. You don't have any money coming in. You gotta sell. What do you do?
I think you have very clear in the wall, right? Execution, hustle, and grind. I mean, jokes aside, I think entrepreneurship is never easy, right? You are working by yourself. You have bills to pay. It's your own cash in the end of the line, and you need to kind of make sure that's going to turn into profit. Mm-hmm. So I get that sometimes it's maybe in paper, all the speech that I'm giving is beautiful, but in reality, it might be very tough for you to have the time to do those things, right? So the way that, and I cannot say with that amount of kind of confidence, because although I try to do some entrepreneurship in Brazil, I'm still in my corporate job. But what I always try to illustrate to my friends that are doing business is that eventually you need to find the time to do that. Because if you don't have the time to do that, you're going to just continue in that spiral mode, right? And I know it's hard, but until you have time to step back and see, look, where this business is right now. Okay, I'm doing X amount of revenue. This is the amount of profit that I generate every month. Where I want to go with this, how much money I want to make with this. That's a question that maybe as an entrepreneur you should ask. And you also should ask the same question that I was telling before is, customer, who are you? What's your market? Who you are looking for? In your case, we had the discussion before. Is you're going to focus in Brazilians? You're going to focus in Americans? Right. What's the niche that you're going to look into? And then from there, you're going to start to create your strategy plan. Okay, I'm doing $200,000 a year. My niche right now is a mixed bag, but okay, I'm going to focus more on Brazilians. Okay, that's my market. Okay, who is my competition? Who is eating my lunch? What they are doing that I'm not doing? How can I innovate? And then, okay, let's create an action plan. And then with your team, have indicators and measure that. So I see, giving a tip, there's a lot of training that goes anytime you're developing the business, right? You hire new people, you bring people on board. People are newbies. They do not know what they're doing. As a leader, you need to take time to train them, right? But think about process, right? So for you to escalate a business, you need to have processes. Right. So you need to come and say, okay, I want to identify who are going to be my process owners. So maybe inside your business, although in your case, you don't have a corporate structure, you can think like a corporate structure. You can say, okay, yes, I'm going to train, but I'm not going to train everybody all the time. I'm going to train first my 5 direct reports. I'm going to select 5 people, and those are going to be my really directors of my business, and they're going to make or break this business. Invest on them, make sure them can cascade their abilities down. And then once you achieve that, then your time becomes a little bit more available. But until you achieve and have those 5 direct reports with buying your strategy, buying where you're going, why they need to be there, giving their purpose, right? Because I think as leaders, that's always the challenge. Motivating people is not just about compensation. You need to kind of show them the purpose. What's in there for them? Of course. So why should I work for Victor on this field? Yeah, why should I listen? You should have those.
Why should they listen to you?
Yeah. What's in there for me? So if you don't have that message, that's why I was going back. Your business is more like about people, not just sales. If you focus on sales, yeah, you can have numbers, but you're going to have a high turnover. For you to grow a business, you need to have a stable direct reports and processes in place where you can just organize your process, increase the process muscle, so you can turn the wheel faster, right? Otherwise, you can have 2 strategies. One is spiral. Yeah, you make money, but you have ups and down, up and down, up and down. Right. How you want to go like a linear growth. So how you move from ups and down to linear growth is exactly what I said. This process, focus on key people, develop your organogram process, who's doing what, to owner, what's in there for them. So strategy development is not just training. Why they need to be there? What's in there for me? If I'm going to work for Victor, why? Why should I work for you? What's in there for me? It's because of money, it's because of learnings, future path, and that's investment, right? So as business, that's the investment sometimes you got to make in order to create that structure, in order for you to continue to grow.
For sure. And Filippe, if somebody listened to you here today and they want to find you, where can they find you?
Well, my Instagram is at Filippe, Filippe, Ruas, Ruas, and the same for my LinkedIn. So you guys can find me over there. Feel free
Awesome.
to add
So
me.
if you're looking to improve your business, 10x your business at a bare minimum, guaranteed, Filippe is going to be the guy. So reach out to him, DM him, and I'll vet for him. I know this guy has helped me a lot with my business. He's giving me some valuable tips, and you don't know what you don't know. So connect with this guy. And Filippe, thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure having you here. I'm sure we all learned a lot, and I'm sure I'll see you again.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate being here.